Hello and welcome. Our top focus is on Mozambique. Opposition leader Venancio Mondlane has returned from months of self-imposed exile, and violence has erupted again in the southern African nation. At least 3 people were shot dead by police in the capital of Maputo on Thursday, as thousands gathered to welcome Mondlane. Local media say the police used live ammunition to disperse Mondlane's supporters. Tear gas was also fired in certain areas. Several people were wounded as police barred them from going to the airport where Mondlane landed. As he exited the terminal, Mondlane knelt on the ground holding a Bible. He later stood on the top of a car and addressed the supporters while being surrounded by security guards. Mondlane had been away from Mozambique for more than 2 months. He had fled after 2 of his associates were shot dead in the capital Maputo ahead of the election results. He returns to the nation from an unknown location, just days ahead of the inauguration of the president-elect Chapo on the 15th of January. Frelimo party's Chapo has been declared the winner of the disputed October polls. This extends Frelimo's almost 50 years in power, but Mondlane says that the mandate has been stolen from him. He has called himself the true winner and has pledged to install himself as the new president. Upon his arrival, he addressed supporters as their elected president.
I, Venancio Mondlane, president elected by the Mozambican people, not by the Constitutional Council, not by the CNS, but elected by the genuine will of the people, I swear on my honor that I have served the Mozambican homeland and the Mozambicans. Number 1, I am not willing to accept the election results if they are the same as those announced so far. Number 2, the only role I am willing to take on is the role I have always been willing to take on, which is to defend these people, to fight for these people, for truth, for justice, for values.
Mondlane, who is a popular figure among the Mozambican youth, has mobilized months of protests against the election results. Around 300 people have died since the unrest was triggered in the country, with most deaths caused by gunfire from security personnel. Mondlane says his return is a pivotal moment for Mozambique's democracy. He also said he is ready to negotiate with the government over the election dispute. But the government is yet to comment on Mondlane's statements. Meanwhile, analysts caution that his return could exacerbate the political divide, and the situation could become worse with the inauguration ceremony approaching. The weeks of unrest in Mozambique have crippled the nation. It has caused major losses to the economy, with around 12,000 job losses. Businesses have been looted and vandalized, and foreign firms have ceased operations. The violence has affected cross-border trade and the mining industries, while thousands have fled to neighboring nations who are facing the brunt of the Mozambican crisis. The worst is felt by Malawi. More than 2,000 Mozambican families have sought refuge in Malawi, but the country is also facing drought, food and fuel shortages. The president has declared a state of disaster and called for international support amid the humanitarian crisis. The regional bloc, called the Southern African Development Community, or SADC, says it is ready to end the turmoil in Mozambique, but so far it has not helped and the situation is getting worse with each passing day. Can the Southern African nation make sure the Mozambican unrest doesn't become a wider crisis? Now, for more on this, we have with us Professor Adriano Nuvunga, who is Director at the Center for Democracy and Human Rights. He is joining us live from Maputo. Thank you for being with us, Professor. Now, Professor, what does Venancio Mondlane's return from self-imposed exile signify for Mozambique's political landscape? And why has it sparked such a significant response from his supporters?
Mondlane's return is politically significant. He has been mobilizing his supporters from overseas, from where he was in exile following the attempts to his life. Now he returned to engage in politics from within the country, and his leadership in the ground has been missing in terms of directing his supporters and what to do. We have seen instances where some of his supporters were looting, and that was attributed to the fact that he was not in the country to direct his supporters on what to do. And the fact that despite the intimidation by the police, the attack that we saw on his support, and they turning in big numbers to welcome him, it's a further evidence of how politically significant this moment is for the country, for his supporter, and for the future of democracy in Mozambique.
Right. And Professor, given the use of live ammunition by the police and the deaths of 3 individuals in Maputo, what does this incident reveal about the government's approach to the handling of opposition and public demonstrations?
Now we have counted about 500 people that have been killed. The 3 people that were killed yesterday, it is compared to the bigger number, it is a small evidence of how repressive the establishment is towards free and peaceful demonstrations, and towards the exercise of the right for a free and peaceful assembly. What we saw yesterday, and this, it tells also how difficult it is for the opposition parties, opposition candidates to be loyal. You need a loyal opposition for a country to move forward. But you have only a loyal opposition when the government it's engaging in a peaceful, it's engaging not in a repressive, the way that we have seen with the opposition, but it is the government that is instigating the violence that we see. They are the government police and the government forces that are attacking protesters that were assembling yesterday to welcome their leader. So these risks jeopardizing the governance in the months to come, because we see more militarization, weapons being imported, aimed at targeting those who are assembling peacefully to protest for.
Right. And Professor, how might these clashes and Mondlane's return impact the already tense post-election environment in the country? And what could this mean for the stability of the region moving forward?
As I said, 500 people have been killed. Yesterday, 3 were killed. The day before yesterday, 2 were targeted. So we see a wave of targeting dissent, of targeting young people throughout the country. And the argument is that those people were participating in protests. In Mozambique, free and peaceful protests, it is granted in the constitution and ordinary laws, but people are being targeted. With this happening, we risk to see further clashes. We risk to see more violent protests to take place as people are grieved by the way that their community members are being targeted. And with this happening, we see, just like in the past, we risk to see waves and waves of violence at the community level, which will, of course, impact the stability of the country as we move ahead. President Chapo will be inaugurated next week. But you know, being inaugurated in such a context might not be enough to contain the tension, might not be enough to bring the country to stability, because the police, the armed forces, they are attacking civilians, they are targeting civilians, they are killing people, they are committing abuse and violations of human rights. So it will take the government to have a restrained attitude to engage in a dialogue if the country is to be stabilized and waiting for the overall stabilization of the region.
Right. Professor, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your valued insights and analysis there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.